Hey folks, welcome back to Ken Michaels Radio. And you may have noticed that I've been a little bit lazy the last couple of weeks. I haven't had a new show. That's because I've been busy traveling and seeing this guy right here in concert, as well as Ringo Starr. But I'm back in business, and you're going to be seeing a lot of interviews in the next few weeks or so. So thanks for coming back. And on my channel, as you know, we talk almost exclusively about the Beatles, the group years, the solo years, any aspect of their careers, the music, the history, whatever we feel like talking about. And I have a special guest on the show this time. His name is John Tabacco. He's actually a supporter of many of the shows that I do. But I asked him for a brief bio, and he kind of sent me a whole book here.
That was brief.
You call this brief? But just so you folks know, a little background on John. He's a composer, singer, songwriter, engineer, multi-instrumentalist, and a graphic artist. He's the co-founder of SA3, which he describes as a proprietary analog to digital conversion technology for sound and video. He engineered, mixed, and mastered music for Dreamworks, BMG, Island Records, and Rhino Records. When you were with BMG, did you know Dennis Ferrante at all?
I know Dennis Ferrante. Yeah, I met him once. Yeah.
Okay, great guy who we lost several years ago. Did a lot of work engineering John Lennon.
Yeah.
For example, the Raspberries. You are the CEO of It Is What It Is Music Publishing, which holds over 700 songs in its catalog. For over 20 years, you've hosted Clam Radio. Mm-hmm. This is a 2-hour freeform radio show on Stony Brook University station WUSB every other Thursday from 9 to 11 a.m. That's Eastern time. Kind of ironic. Last show we had Scott O'Rourke on, who does.
I know. I remember when I remember when he was just a little baby. He came to the studio now.
Yeah.
He's a good guy.
Yeah. And right now you are a member of the rocking combo called Sushi Savant.
Yeah.
And lead singer and co-writer for the Swedish group, the Vegetarians. You've also played drums and sung with the Beatles tribute band, Mostly Moptop. And you also worked with the Beatles Magical Orchestra, conducted by composer David Amram. You perform many times with the Ed Palermo Big Band, singing the fun music of Frank Zappa. And you was the lead vocalist for Stealin Dan. That's a covers band of Steely Dan music. So your music and the work you've done in music is really all over the place stylistically.
Yeah, it is. It's very connected, though. A lot of continuity between albums. You can chase it. It's a big puzzle. I think I learned that from Frank Zappa, as a matter of fact. But, you know, hearing the Beatles and stuff, I mean, you have these 4 members who always kept putting out great music. I mean, everyone has different styles, so you just draw upon all of that. And the Beatles are so inspirational, you know, as well as a lot of other people. But Beatles are like a religion. What can I say?
Yeah.
You know? But they deliver. That's what you know.
For me, you know, I was brought up on so many different styles of music.
Yeah.
But the Beatles, as a little kid, were front and center. And I realized how much of an influence they were on my musical taste. I always like to point out the White Album, amongst their many works, as being the most eclectic.
Oh yeah,
songs.
No doubt.
You're a little kid hearing all these different styles of music, from, you know, blues to folk music to dance hall to hard rock to avant-garde, you know, all by the same group. And that really affected me, as well as Top 40 radio as well. Give us a background of who the artists were that you grew up listening to, and how the Beatles fit into all of it.
Well, there used to be a commercial for Wrigley Spearmint Gum. And every time this song would play, I'd run into the room. I must have been about 2. And I just loved the sound of the song. I don't know what it was. Something about it was very catchy. And then later on, my mom bought me a Monkees record. It's the first Monkees record that came out. And I liked it. Thought it was good. Then a couple of months later, she bought me Help, but like the American version.
Right.
And I fell in love with that. And I didn't, and to me, like, all the music is the same. Like, there's some songs and some instrumentals. I thought that's the way people make records. You know, I didn't know like Ken Thorpe did all these music, and then the Beatles did. I thought it was like one continuous thing. So I liked all of it. And then I got Beatles 65. And, you know, I found out I really enjoyed the Beatles a little bit more than the Monkees. I like the Monkees tunes, they had great writers, but something about the Beatles was a cohesiveness to their sound that I really liked, and I like to dance around to it. So, you know, then I got Meet the Beatles, and then it just evolved from there. I remember when the White Album came out, my older cousins had it. I thought Revolution #9, it blew my mind. It scared the hell out of me. I loved it, and nobody liked it. I thought this was unbelievable. What is this stuff, you know? And how are these guys coming out with such great music? Like to me, I mean, I like music, but I didn't know anything about it. It's magical. It's magic. These guys could just keep, every song was great. I'm like, every song I kind of knew, almost like a DNA kind of thing. Like when was the first time you heard Let It Be? I'm like, I don't know. I just remember hearing it. It just existed. Like I knew it right away.
Right.
And so, you know, the Beatles were the kind of thing that you could carry on after they split up. Like it didn't really occur to me that they split up because I was like 7 or 8 years old. And then I would just get you know, my father, which he didn't really care much about music. He actually got him to buy me the McCartney record. And I thought this was so great. And like, oh, it's just Paul McCartney doing stuff. I didn't, like, it took a while for me to really realize that. Then of course the Plastic Ono Band changed my life. That's that album. My father actually crossed out some of the curse words on the record. He couldn't deal with that, you know. And I'm like, there's something going on here. If my father gets pissed off with this stuff, come on, man, this must be powerful stuff. And it was. That's right. A very powerful record. And of course, All Things Must Pass. My mother holding the record up just before Christmas, giving me a glance of it. It was so exciting those times. My mother used to take the albums like Ram and Imagine. She used to put them on the easel. My mother's an artist. She'd put them on the easel. When I come home from school, my eyes weren't very good. I'd look and see what kind of painting she was doing. I couldn't quite make it out. I'd eat some food. Then I'd go up to the easel and I found out it was Ram. I freaked. You know, and she did that for Imagine too. Those are like the greatest times. I will never, ever feel that way again, ever. I'm sure, I can't imagine. Not here.
Your parents were supportive of the Beatles then?
Yeah, well, my mom was a big fan. She liked, you know, she wasn't a fan, but she liked all their stuff. She loved George Harrison. He was her favorite. And, you know, like I followed the Beatles up until when Lennon passed, when Lennon died. Honestly, the saddest moment of my life. And my life's been pretty good. There have been people who've passed on, but nothing like that. That was just like, that was devastating. Every time I see stuff like that, I cry. I just can't help it. Right. It's just something. I mean, I love George. I mean, he's a genius too. But we knew he was going to die. Like we knew he was kind of sick. So when he passed, I was very sad. But nothing like Lennon. And I have a feeling that the feeling I got with that, it won't be the same with McCartney, but it'll be just as strong. I mean, I hate to bring up something morbid like that. But as we get older, people say, you know, who wants to see Paul McCartney? I'm like, this guy's a legend. See him now. It's never going to happen again. A guy like this, it's not going to happen. You know, and he's touched so many people. And that's why I was asked to write an article. What do you write about Paul McCartney that hasn't been written before? So I figured I would pick out a bunch of tunes that maybe people aren't aware of that I sort of like. And now thinking back, I thought I came up with a whole bunch more that I'd like to say. I like a lot of stuff that the band does. Anyway, so as soon as John Lennon died, at that point, I started to get into writing, recording music. I got introduced to a couple of years before that, I got introduced to Frank Zappa. He completely changed my life, made me think about things differently. I got into Steely Dan around that time, another group that is very influential, and a bunch of other groups. I mean, you know, there's people, Elton John, Billy Joel, you just go and name it. All the people from the 70s. I just drew upon all that stuff. And eventually when I was able to write and record music, I think all that stuff kind of filters in to what I've been doing. So I would say the Beatles, Zappa, and Steely Dan are like the major influences of what it is I ended up doing. And to this day, I still like the fact that McCartney's coming out with stuff, and I try to keep current. I lost it for a little while in the 80s. I finally got back. When you guys are talking on More Talk, you bring up a lot of stuff. I'm like, oh, I got to check that album out. I forgot about that. Right. You know, like Off the Ground and things like that. I liked some of those tunes, but I never really remember checking them out. I'm like, there's a lot of great stuff here that I don't remember, and it's good. It's kind of rediscovering some of the works that Paul did, you know, and what can I say? I mean, the music is, I have 8 iPods playing constantly in my house. They basically tell me the future. I swear to God, I don't even want to get into that. Yeah. But I mean, I have all that music playing, so it's always in my head. It's always current. To other people, like they go, oh yeah, Beware My Love. Oh my God, I remember that song. Was a kid. To me, that's current in my mind. I'm like, I still hear it. You know, it plays on my iPod. Right. It still plays. You know. So, like I said, the Beatles are a continuous thing, and you know, I'm very lucky that we're in the same time to be alive to witness and have this music.
Absolutely, absolutely. You touched upon so many things that I wanted to comment on, but you and I are pretty close in age.
Yeah,
I would say that, when the Beatles broke up, I knew about them breaking up,
I
but
remember, right, yeah,
I didn't feel like this was so devastating to me because they kept putting out more music as solo.
exactly, exactly.
In the year 1970 alone, you had
Yeah,
two albums from Ringo, you had one album each from John, Paul, and George, and you had Let It Be coming out.
yeah,
So the music was constant, and it's the same guys who wrote those songs, just putting
right,
it out on their own, and I
right.
was enjoying it just as much that, with the solo music as I was with the band.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah,
You
and
know,
there's the catalog is so enormous now. I have
right.
to point out the fact that when you combine the group and the solo, you've got over 100 albums to pick from, and it takes a long time to get to know all that music. And
Right.
in the case of especially McCartney, he's put so much out as B-sides and bonus tracks on CD singles that are just as good
Yeah, that's unbelievable.
in
Yeah,
some cases than what he puts on his album. So
that's
to
funny.
know his catalog, to know it really well,
Right.
you've got to know everything that he's done.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
And I should say the main reason why we have you on here is because you just wrote an article with Paul, so celebrating his 80th birthday. As you can imagine, there are loads of articles now on Paul
Of
with
course.
top 80 McCartney songs of all.
I saw that.
There's all different types of lists. What I like about yours is that it's called 32 underrated and obscure Paul McCartney songs. So you deliberately avoided any hits. You didn't want to choose
Right.
the songs
Yeah,
that
right.
everybody knows, obviously. And, in the case of any artist who you studied, you know, completely, in many cases, you'll find that the album cuts can be just as good, if not better, than some of the hits.
Oh, yeah.
That's what your article illustrates, which you wrote for, who was it? This was,
Classic history of rock and roll, I believe it's called. Yeah. I've
yeah,
written a bunch of articles for those guys.
okay.
You know.
So in my description box, I'm going to put a link to this article. I don't want to go through all 32 songs, but I
Mhm.
thought that I would bring up some of the ones that you mentioned and have you comment about each one. What I found kind of interesting, you picked a few songs from the Wings days that Paul didn't sing lead to.
Yeah.
Um, and also you have some instrumentals in there. You even have some songs. Oh, by the way, is this in order of how you rank them or just 32
No,
random
I
songs?
do. No, I don't like ranking stuff. That the magazine that they have on the internet is about top 10 stuff. And I'm just like, look, I mean, how come I can choose top 10 with Paul McCartney? I mean, Junior's Farm is great, Long Island Road is great. I mean, it's silly. I'm like you. I mean, a lot of times people ask you and you're like, what? It's good stuff. How are you gonna rate it? Depends on how I feel at the day, I guess, whatever. So
Right.
no, I did it off the top of my head. That's the order it came out.
Yeah. Well,
So,
for me, it's kind of easy to pick like my number one and number two. But once you're getting lower than that, it's like, what's the difference between five and six? How much do you like number five more than number six?
well, I have a hard time choosing like Good Night Tonight and Daytime Nighttime Suffering. I'm like, it's a single. It's great. Both songs serve different purposes in my mind.
Exactly.
So I don't know. I'm just a diehard fan of the music. I just like it.
Okay.
And Paul has so many qualities: a great singer, great writer, great producer. He's one of a kind. There's no doubt about it. A man has reached more people than I can even imagine. And what a gift that is to go into an audience of small kids, grandpas, grandmas, regular folks like us, regular folks, middle-aged people, whatever you want to call it, and everybody's singing his tunes, not just one song. Usually people they write a couple of songs that are good. This guy, it's like you just sit back and you just cry because you can't believe he channeled all that stuff, and he's just making it up. People give him like all this, like, I don't think he sits there and really, I mean, he just channels. It's a natural thing. It's not even something you can't learn it.
Right.
It's just something that he's just a musical guy. One of those dudes. He's just at the right time at the right place. And we got to see it and hear it.
And with someone like him, I like to point out that even though I probably would always think of him as a songwriter first, all the musical instruments he plays, the variety of ways that he sings songs,
Yeah, think about that. That's interesting, right? Who's like that? Really nobody. Admiral Halsey, and then you hear the voice he does on this and he does on that. I'm like, it's really interesting. He just goes, you know, I love that about him. I didn't think about it until like later on life, but I thought like, wow, he's singing all these different voices, yet you know it's Paul McCartney, you know. He's a strange guy. I love it.
You know, most singers, to me, there's a lot of singers that I love out there that are
no doubt
singers, but they only have one way of singing.
Right.
Their voice, you know, within the Beatles with Paul and sometimes John, you know, they might have a softer delivery to their songs.
No doubt. Yeah.
Will or Julia is sung differently than other ballads of theirs, you know, like in Life, for example, with John or something like that.
But you know what? I just want to interrupt because there's something I was thinking about. I listened to the White Album. I got the surround sound version of it, stuff like that. Yeah. And I listened to I Will and I listened to Julia. They're both excellent singers, no doubt. I got to tell you something about John's delivery seems more immediate. Paul is just so polished. It's so perfect. I'm not saying that, I mean, this is just my opinion. It doesn't mean anything, but I'm just saying I noticed that about Lennon singing. I really felt like that's John Lennon. With Paul, I mean, it's just great. It's just polished. It's a different approach. Those guys, their voices were both great, but one's delivery is different. Lennon's a much more immediate person. He didn't fix some notes. He just did it. And he just felt like that's the guy right there. With Paul, this is just perfection. He just nails it. And he's just, you know.
Right.
It's not saying that I don't feel for each one. I do, but I'm saying I noticed there was a little bit of a difference there. Like that's Lennon's voice right there for Julia. With Paul, it was like, wow, he's amazing. He's just like every note's perfect, and it's fluid. It's a professional, polished thing.
Yeah, he's known for being a perfectionist, but there are times when he does stuff in the studio that's very spontaneous. And
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying in general for the Beatles themselves. I always felt that it seems like Lennon's voice was more immediate. Like Ringo's very, very true, very honest, and George is very shy. George's voice sounds best on covers, as far as I'm concerned. I like his voice. I just think on covers he just sounds so much more stronger because he just seems very shy. I mean, he got better as he went along. He got more confident, but these are just things running around in my head once in a while. Can't be objective about it. So,
look, I love observations like that. Those are the things that stick in my mind after an interview.
Yeah, it's interesting, you know. But let's get to the topic at hand. We're talking about 32 obscure songs that, not for you, they're obscure. That's why I wouldn't even, like Ken Michaels, I wouldn't bother him with this stuff. You know everything. You know all these tunes. You know, it's not obscure for you.
I love hearing different opinions about them. Whether I agree with them or not, doesn't matter. You know,
I like that.
We all learn from each other, you know. The first one you mentioned, interestingly, is Love in the Open Air.
Yeah, it's a beautiful little tune.
Yeah. What is it about that one, why you chose that?
Well, I think that if somebody played it, he played it for the average person, they wouldn't know who it was. And it's just a very lilting little kind of waltzy kind of thing. And George Martin actually obviously orchestrated it, but there's something very memorable, very beautiful about it. You know, it's in the Eleanor Rigby kind of time zone and that thing. It's just, I like the melancholy nature of the melody, basically. It just, when I first heard it, I was like, I'd never heard it before until like maybe 10 years ago. And I'm like, oh, this is pretty, you know. Why did it just escape my knowledge of Paul McCartney? It just did. You know, I've heard about the movie, but I never listened to that song.
Yeah, it's definitely beautiful. I kind of wish that Paul wrote a little bit more for the movie instead of just the one melody. Because
that's true. Yeah,
variations on it.
Yeah,
on the album. But are you familiar with? There's a piece that Paul wrote, the theme for the Honorary Consul.
I don't think I know that one. Honorary Consul of what?
Yeah, it was a movie. It was actually called Beyond the Limit. And John McKenzie was the director of the film, and Richard Gere was in it, and Paul wrote the music for it, and John Williams, it was an instrumental. John Williams, the classical guitarist, played it, and it's really beautiful, very much like The Family Way.
Send me a link. I don't know that. I need to have it.
I'll put it in the description box.
Yeah, no, I don't know that.
Yeah, it's really nice, and every now and then you find out about these one-off things that Paul does. And it could prove to be very interesting.
Sure.
Very similar in a way in that it has classical guitar and it has a flute to go with it, and some strings. It's really nice. You either know about it or you don't. It came out as a single. It was either late 1983 or 84. And John McKenzie also directed the Take It Away video, which is how Paul came to know him.
Oh, okay, yeah. That was a great time.
Yeah, but check that out.
Yeah.
Along the same lines, another instrumental you put in here, Mama Miss America. What is it
Yeah.
about that one?
Well, I like the form of the piece. I like the spontaneity sort of, but it's definitely a well composed piece. And I liked it because when I was a kid, before I started to write songs, I came up with like a melody idea around it, just to write like some parody words to it and stuff like that. And it was kind of fun to be able to do that. Like I wasn't really sure how to write songs. So I kind of learned from that particular piece, like how to kind of up a melody and some words. What I did many, many years later is I took Paul's stuff and put it away because it's his tune. And I just kept the melody and the words and did something with drums and stuff and made a new tune out of it. Like if you listen to it, you wouldn't know it, but if you sang along with it, you go, hey, this kind of fits that song. So it was a good experiment, but I like the tune. I just think it's kind of fun. It looks like they cut it in half. It's kind of, there's like a little piano part and then it goes into another section. So it's kind of like a montage kind of thing, which is kind of cool. I like that.
Paul does that a lot. He has all these different ideas and he tries to work them all together in some way. But
well, that's the thing. That's what makes Paul McCartney special. When you think about pop music and you think about something like Uncle Albert, like who would have a hit song like that with those kind of sections? Nobody. He's the only one that will ever do that. I'm not saying people don't. I mean, people like Zappa, they use all these different styles, but I'm talking about someone's commercial. That's a rare thing. Like that's an oddity. Like who were Silly Love Songs having all that round of songs and melody, and he got people to listen to it. I mean, because it's so catchy. It's so in people's minds. That's a gift. He's a great composer.
He didn't invent counter melody, but he sure has used it a lot. And in something like Silly Love Songs, it's 3 or 4 melodies going on at the same time.
Right. And who would be doing that? That was that popular. They'd say, listen, not commercial. And he made a commercial, and the bass line is ridiculous. It's great. I love his bass lines and stuff. Even that alone, Good Night Tonight. Even the thing he did with Linda, the Seaside Woman. It's just so catchy. He's just great, man. He's just a great player. Great player.
Oh, no doubt about it. Good Night Tonight's one of my favorite bass lines.
It's just great. And I love the fact he threw in a little classical guitar in there. Was that Lawrence Juber who did that?
Lawrence Juber.
Yeah, it's such a funny song. He's like making noises and stuff. I thought this guy is so great. I don't like disco. I mean, disco's okay. I like little bits of it. But he kind of took it to another level with that song. He just made it fun because it had a melody to it. It wasn't just something that was monotone. So, I mean, I like that. I like melody. I like to sing.
I do like disco, but I will say Good Night Tonight does not sound like any other song in the disco field. And even, Lawrence has said he doesn't really think of it as disco. It's a dance.
Right. I just know at the time when that was popular, there were a lot of other things going on that like Chic and people like that were doing stuff.
Right.
And that's kind of his take on it. But it's just so catchy. Because you just like it. Something wrong with it. Nothing about it I don't like.
Yeah. You like, since we're talking about Mama Miss America, do you like the albums where Paul plays all the instruments? Because it has a whole different vibe than having a band.
Yeah, I do. I do like it. I think he really knows what he wants to do. Like it's very focused. It's pure Paul McCartney,
Right.
I don't have a problem with his drumming. I don't have a problem with anything he does. I think he should play more lead guitar. He's an excellent lead guitar player. As we know, he's done some stuff. I mean, him and George, both those guys, working together. That was my dream, like them doing a guitar thing together. That would have been really cool.
Yeah.
I would have loved that.
When you see him live, it's a joy to see him play lead guitar. I wish more of it on stage. And I also wish he'd drum on stage, He only did that on Unplugged.
That's true.
Or Ain't No Sunshine. But I wish, on his tours, maybe do 1 or 2 songs, go back there, and play the drums.
He's got certain pattern that he likes to do, I guess. And, I mean, I don't know. Like I said, people who are complaining, why doesn't he do this tune and why doesn't he do that? I understand why he does the tunes he does. He wants to reach the widest audience. And, and people like a lot of people want to just hear that. They would like the other tunes, but they don't have enough time. Maybe they'd have to go. That's what this article is about. So this way, maybe you'll get you to check out other things that he's done. He's done a lot of things. It's not just Hey Jude, it's not Maybe I'm Amazed. There's a lot of great stuff, other things,
Yeah. I Am Your Singer. How come you
I like the sound of the way it was mixed. It's very upfront. I think it's because of Linda's voice in there. It's very charming. She's not a great singer. She admits that, but there's some charm to her. She made the wing sound, as far as I'm concerned, in my mind. Her vocal harmonies and stuff with just the right kind of touch of paint. against Paul's perfection and Denny's. Denny wasn't the greatest singer, but he's a good singer. But it worked. There was a good layer of things in my mind, and I like that particular tune. I like that album a lot. People down it a lot. I don't know why. I guess it's too unpolished or something. I like it, the immediacy of it. And it's a good song. They tremolo going on there. It's kind of nice. And it's got a great little melody. I like the little modulations going on there. He got his wife to sing that stuff. That's pretty good. Like Yoko, she just went in there like, well, yeah, Yoko, she's an artist, blah, blah. But Linda, she was like, okay, she can't imagine you're going to sing on Paul McCartney's record. That's my husband, I know, but still. And she was probably very nervous. And he got to work on her and got that sound.
Right.
That's funny. When you go to Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, they show like these movies about people and stuff like that. When they show the movie about Paul McCartney, it's not really him on stage. It's about his family. I thought that was really interesting. Most of it was about him and his family. Very different than all the other artists. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, he liked to take his family on the road with him.
Yeah, imagine that.
Very much a family man. I'm glad to hear you say what you said about Linda, because her sound harmonizing with Paul. And Denny Lane, I think, is actually a very, very good harmony singer.
He is. He's good.
That was a signature sound in Wings right there.
No doubt. Absolutely.
Okay. This is one of my favorites because I always thought it was a little bit different and most people wouldn't even think that. When the Night.
Yeah, I mean, it's a simple 50s kind of tune. It's a good song. His singing on it is excellent. I mean, the lyrics are a little wacky, but I mean, I just like the tune. It's very memorable and it's got a romantic quality to it. I mean, I think it's just his voice really, to me, that really just drags me in. Something about it, I just liked it. I don't know. It's not, you just probably just made it up in 5 minutes, but there's some quality to it that it just works. The song works. And I think it influenced the Raspberries, as a matter of fact. I'm sure Eric Carmen was listening to this because there's a song called Reach for the Light. So I reminds you that, yeah, a little bit. Eric Carmen is a very talented dude, but you know that he loved Paul McCartney, you can tell.
Yeah.
It's like, come on. Yeah.
I had the chance to interview Eric and John Bonfanti one time when they reunited and they played.
Oh, really? I didn't know they reunited.
And one of the things that I if I had to think of one thing I had to say to Eric Carmen is that Let's Pretend is the greatest McCartney Brian Wilson song ever.
Isn't it? That's a beautiful tune, man.
Yeah, you combine those two.
I love that song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very talented guy, Eric.
He won't deny it though. I'm pretty sure, right? He probably said, well, yeah, clearly influence. And Brian, happy 80th to that guy. Jesus, that guy's what an amazing talented dude that guy is. He's another big influence. Brian, I love that guy.
Yeah.
If I ever see Paul McCartney, I'd perform God Only Knows, because I know he'd get a kick out of that. Or maybe he cries. I mean, I don't know.
Cool. I wish Paul and Brian did more work together.
Yeah, they did do.
Song, which I love a lot.
Yeah.
I wish that those two tried to write together. But anyway, Love and Song is another one.
Yeah, a lot of major and minor going on in that, which is a typical McCartney thing. He does a lot of that. But in this particular tune, it's very, very arching, the melody, very haunting. Almost has like an Appalachian kind of sound to it. And I never hear it on the radio ever. I've never really heard that song. And I liked it. It just kept in my mind. There's a lot of good stuff from Venus and Mars. It's a very great album. But that particular tune, I just like his passion, the way the melody goes up and down and stuff. And it's very clearly major and then minor, or vice versa. I'm trying to think. It's probably minor than major. I like that. I like that kind of quality of the song.
It's kind of interesting when melodically he's singing Love and Song.
Right. It's got that little melisma thing. Yeah, it's cool. It's a good little mode there.
Yeah.
It's a strange guy.
When Venus and Mars came out and on the radio, on rock radio, they played almost every single song from that album. I don't think Love and Song got played though, but I heard just about everything else.
Well, Rock Show, of course, and Venus and Mars and a bunch of stuff, you gave me the answer.
Magneto and Titanium Man.
Titanium Man, yeah, that's interesting too.
Spirits of Ancient Egypt, which you have in here in your list.
Yeah, that's a funky little tune, man. I like that song. People forget about that, but it's interesting. The lyrics are really funny. Gets elevated to Geronimo. It's just great. And Denny sings great on it. I just love it. The fact that he's singing the verse. McCartney comes in with, "Yo, my baby," the spirits of ancient Egypt. It's got the little Egyptian kind of mode in there.
Right.
And it's funky. The bass part sort of reminds me of like Elvis Presley's little sister or something. It just grooves, man. I just like it. And it's just a great little tune, forgotten for a lot of people. They don't remember it.
I love the fact that, there are songs that Paul wrote that he just gave to Denny to sing lead.
Yeah, well, I mentioned one of them, The Note You Never Wrote. Which
Yeah.
again, that's a very odd song when you think about McCartney's catalog. The nature of the spaciness, the type of tune in terms of orchestration, kind of the melody being kind of minorish. I just always stuck with me. I know that Joe Mayo said he didn't really like the tune, and I'm like, that's interesting how some people don't seem to like it, and I just gravitated towards it. Thought it was very interesting.
Yeah, it takes a while to grow on you, but
I guess.
I love the spaciness, like you said. I love Jimmy McCulloch's lead guitar work on there.
Oh, he was a great player, that guy, man. Him on Junior's Farm and stuff.
He added so much to their records.
No doubt.
All right, I'm going to question you about San Ferian.
Okay.
All right, because I love the song, but I have a tendency in more of a traditional way to think of most songs have, verse, chorus, that kind of pattern to it. And San Ferian are verses. There's no middle eight. There's nothing like that. There's that little instrumental bridge. So it makes me feel like, well, you could have done a little bit more work on this song.
Well, that's a tough one because you think about a composer like, yeah, I mean, I could say, I like to write middle sections to tunes and stuff like that. So I understand what you're saying. I guess because I heard it at the time, was fairly young teenager. Like, that's the way the song goes. Like, why would I even think about it should be extended? And I liked all the little interplay of the horns and stuff at the end. I understand what you're saying. In fact, sometimes I get confused when the beginning of this song starts. There's a song by Badfinger called I Die, Babe. It's almost the same thing. Sometimes I get confused. I'm like, was that the same song then? But yeah, I like San Ferian. It's just a very strange little, just a ditty, basically, that he did. I can see what you're saying. Maybe he could be expanded. But I don't know. It's obscure. Most people I talk to, but San Ferian, I never heard of it,
Yeah.
That's why I picked it.
Well, one of the things you learn about the Beatles, not just Paul, is that they're not formula artists. And there's always ways to write songs.
Yeah.
And I can be down on certain songs like that would be something I like to point out, because it's just a couple of lines, like, why don't we do it in the road? But it's more kind of what you build on it.
Well, George liked That Would Be Something. So that's interesting. He thought that was a great song. He liked that one.
The songs he picked. I
know, right? But it's charming. Paul McCartney's great. I just, it's like you grew up with it. Yeah, it could have been more of a song, but it's just it's an idea. It's just a way to keep you going, entertain you, So he didn't have to write it. That's what I'm saying. He could have stopped, but he thought it was fun.
There's certain songs that to me are not really great compositions, but there's other reasons why you listen to it.
Right.
Out of it, the instrumentation, Paul's vocals.
His vocals, of course.
Whatever. So San Ferian, I do like the song. I love the melody. I love Paul's vocals. I love the whole arrangement of it. I just wish he spent a little bit more time on the composition. That's just me, But
when I listen to that song, it also reminds me of Paul Simon's song "Oh Marion," which came out a little bit later. I always wonder if people were influenced. Probably Paul Simon would never probably admit to that. I love Paul Simon too, but it would be interesting I would like to ask these people: would you influenced by Paul McCartney, or I'd like to see what other people think at the same time as they were doing stuff, I don't know.
That's another person I sure wished McCartney worked with, was Paul Simon. But
oh yeah, he's brilliant, one of the greatest songwriters ever. There's no doubt.
Okay, Spin It On.
Yeah, fast tune. I like it. That's just that was like during the punk era. That was like his little nod to it, and the tune just cranks. I mean, I like the forward momentum of it. And it sort of sounds like it's spinning on, especially at the end. He's got that kind of spin kind of effect on it. And it just grooves. I mean, this thing just keeps. It's just great the way he keeps rolling it, and it's catchy. What's wrong with being punkish, but you still be kind of catchy at the same time?
And Paul does it seemingly effortlessly.
No doubt.
Yeah, he's so adaptable to every genre of music. I think we mentioned this before, Daytime, Nighttime Suffering. To me, one of his best B-sides, but
yeah, it's a great tune. I know that he likes it a lot too. And I mean, that was not, it's obscure for most people, but it was sort of a hit. It was on the other side of Good Night Tonight, I think, right? I don't know why I never put it on any albums. What did it go on Back to the Egg eventually or something?
Oh, as a bonus track later on.
Bonus track, yeah. And that's a good song. Again, you got different variations on that tune. You got the little bum, did the bum, they're doing the little vocal thing, and it's a good message. It's just a good song. Major minor. Got a lot of major minor going on there. Come on, River. It's minor now all of a sudden.
Yeah, I love the harmony.
Oh, no doubt. That's another reason.
That's how it starts too.
Yeah.
So full and rich, the harmonies there. All right. I had to bring this one up. I loved this song when I had it as a bootleg. And then it became a bonus track for Tug of War. Stop, you don't know where she came from.
Yeah, it's just a catchy ditty. It's kind of on the lyrical content of it doesn't seem like something Paul McCartney would kind of write about, but I really don't know what the influence was on it. But there's something about it. When I first heard it, I'm like, I like this tune. I don't know why I keep hearing it. You know, I don't know anything about it. I don't know. Did he just make it up? Do you know the background to the song?
I just know it was done during the Tug of War period. It's been on bootlegs before. It seems to have had different titles, That Kind of Woman, or when apparently he's singing That Fast Kind of Woman, I think.
Right.
But
in a strange voice, in a different voice,
it's a song where I felt like, if he developed it a little bit more, that could have been a great track on Tug of War.
No doubt. Absolutely. Again, a lot of these obscure tunes could be things, I think in my mind, I'd say you could develop them, but then I'm like, who am I to question Paul McCartney? That's what it is. That's what it is. So I like the tune. I mean, I didn't think about whether we should make it longer or whatever. It's just it's a mood,
Right. I get what you're saying.
And the bass part's cool. I like the bass.
You know What It Is from Run Devil Run? It's a great rock song.
It's not coming into my mind. I know the album, but I don't know that particular tune. Maybe I do.
3 original songs that Paul did for Run Devil Run, and What It Is one of them. And it reminds me a lot of Stop, You Don't Know Where She Came From, because
I gotta check it out now.
Beginning of it, you hear it, stop, you better stop. Then they stop the song, you don't know where she came.
Right.
Then What It Is you, boom, or What It Is, boom.
Okay.
The world go round for me. Kind of reminds
maybe that was a warm-up. Maybe the first tune was a warm-up for that one, I guess, maybe.
Who knows?
He did that for Big Bon Red. You got a snippet of it, I think, in Ram.
Yeah.
So who knows? He just develops stuff. I mean, I understand as a composer, you go back to your back catalog and say, that was a good idea. Let's expand on it now. Let's make another tune out of it.
Right.
And for him, it's a piece of cake, I'm sure.
Okay. Two Magpies.
Yeah, I like it. It's a little ditty, very odd, almost like an odd little scratchboard kind of painting of a song. Not oil, but it's kind of scratchboard. It's got a mood. I don't know enough about the guy he produced it with, Youth. I don't know who he is.
Yeah.
But I know it's got a certain sound that's unlike a lot of his other tunes. It's got a kind of improvisational kind of feel to it that, but that he kind of had an idea what to do with the guitar and stuff. I like it. It's a surreal little piece. And he seems really old on it, The voice is kind of frail. It's just charming. And he's Paul McCartney. What are you going to do,
Yeah. That's one aspect I like about that song, is that it sounds like it was like one take and whatever came into his head was what he played, not a very polished song, and yet it works just the way that it came out.
Right.
It does sound like it was, kind of spontaneous.
Yeah, you feel like you can get next to him when he's doing it. Like, wow, I just kind of made that up. That's great.
Okay. No argument for me on this next one. That Was Me.
Yeah, again, little storytelling there. I like it. It rocks. It's got a little bit of Heart of the Country kind of little riff in there, unison with the voice. That's kind of cool. That's another one of those albums that has a lot of great stuff on it. I never really hear many people talk about it, at least in the circle I'm in. But I like that tune. It's just the rocking little song. Cobwebs, man. Any song with the word cobwebs in it's got to be interesting,
I like it because I think it's brilliant, not only because it's so nostalgic, but also how the song builds.
Yeah, exactly.
The bass line is amazing. It really drives the song there. I could go for another 2 minutes of that song. It's a little too short.
Yeah.
I loved it. Golden Earth Girl.
Yeah, it's the pretty song. What can I say? It's very classical in the nature, and the lyrics are very surreal. I assume that he wrote the lyrics for Linda, I would guess. I get a feeling that was the case. It's just typical classical kind of McCartney, sort of in the vein of like For No One or something like that, where it's got a very classical edge to it. It's very pretty, and Warm and Beautiful is another one of those kind of tunes.
Right.
It's just a pretty song. And like I said, the lyrics, fish in a sunbeam, eggshell seas, it's very surreal. You don't know, you have to really, you get a picture in your mind. And I like that, the fact they use the oboe and the piano, it's kind of rare instrumentation. A good album, again, Off the Ground, another one has all the songs that were even on it are really great. Like, what's that all about? That should be that's a whole show.
On other podcast shows like Two Legs, they talk about that all the time.
Yeah, it's good.
Has B-sides and, like I just said, bonus tracks that could have been on the album. And Off the Ground could easily have been a double album.
Right. Imagine having that problem. I got too many tunes. I don't know. I will just leave those over. He could do that. Just leave them for that next thing.
Question is, should he have made them double albums, or is it more fun to have one album but a lot of CD singles? So each time you get the CD single, there's 2-3 new songs from them.
Well, I'm tending to go for CD singles nowadays. Just as a person that puts out a lot of music, I find it's easier to reach people. An album, I don't know if they really listen to an album like we used to listen to it. They're picking little singles, so I'm like, I'll just put a single. It gives me the advantage of making more artwork to it. But I like albums like anybody else. I always come up with one every year. But you really got to listen to it as a flow. But I don't know what kids do nowadays. I mean, we do, but we come from we from the 20th century, different mindset,
I guess younger people have a shorter attention span.
Yeah, we listened to a record when we got it and listened to the whole thing over and over again and looked at the artwork and just looked at it because it wasn't going to come out that was it. McCartney would come out with another album, maybe you have to wait a whole year, which still is pretty good. Most people you have to wait like 4 or 5 years, But I just like soak it up and play it thousands and thousands of times. I don't know why. It's not doing anything, but the sound of it just makes my life in balance. And a guy like that with a voice like that, we've been listening to his voice since we were kids. It's just like, I need to hear it. It's just one of those things. Yeah. It's good food. It's food for your ears,
I've been saying it more and more in my podcast shows. These people are part of our DNA.
No doubt.
You realize it as you're growing up, but when someone's in your life every single day, whether you hear his music or somehow his music creeps in, either on a day-by-day basis or a week-by-week basis, that has an effect on you. There's so much a part of who you are. And it's not just musicians. It could be anybody. It could be actors. Love for so long.
I think if outside people looking at us might think like, what is your problem? It's not a problem. These are the people I think of. The people I mentioned before, these are the people I hear and mention every single day. They're always floating in my head. I don't know what else to do. That's just the way. I don't feel bad about it. In fact, it's good because when you're away from something, you got the music to give you the continuity in your head or something. At least it carries you through life. I noticed that. I moved to Hawaii for a little while. If I didn't have the music, I would have been nuts. That kept me like, okay, I'm still alive. This is still my world. It was a good continuity thing to have music.
Yeah. Even when you don't physically have the music, if it's all up here, sometimes that's all you need.
Right. And then you wonder about people that we write music and stuff and people don't want to pay for it. I'm like, look, the reason you pay for the music is so I can make more. But think about this. I bought an album by Paul McCartney for $8 or $7 once. I still listen to it. It still gives me joy. Boy, tell me about a winner. For like $7, I got something that lasts a lifetime. So music is that way. You can take it anywhere. I mean, I love movies too, of course. But a piece of music, we could just leave this conversation and still have the songs in our head. And that's a gift. And, what's wrong with, giving us a little money so we keep making more of it? That's all. I mean, it's not a big deal. I don't see, don't make it like, don't make art disposable because it's not. It's a gift. And it's something that lasts in your head, changes your life, makes the soundtrack of your life. And Paul McCartney, he's been in our life forever, really. God, what can I say?
There's a lot of music that you appreciate even more as you get older. And, I say that about not just the Beatles and their solo music, but a lot of artists.
No doubt. Absolutely.
Music has a life all of its own. It's not this permanent thing where you have this one image and this one opinion and it stays the same the rest of your life.
Right.
Your opinions can change. And that's
right. But what is it really? It's vibrations, Everything vibrates. So it's got to be some connecting force. It's very rare I ever meet someone who doesn't like music.
I have.
I maybe I've met one or two, but they're kind of tone deaf. I don't like music. Why? It hurts my ears. Like, really? I mean, it's possible, I guess. I can't imagine. Everybody I know pretty much likes music on some level, something,
I don't know how to get through one day without music.
Maybe that's the thing. Maybe it's important to be able to see and appreciate it, but to be not so it controls you. Like that's to me, my goal is to be able to say, I love music. I'm part of it, but I don't have to be part of it. You know, it's a spiritual thing for me, but it's like, maybe I'm here to like learn to give it up, to really, to be part of everything. Not to like, music is like my precious, take it away, I'm going to disappear. No. Maybe you should enjoy it, but let go of it. Just let go, because you are music. We're all part of it. You know what I'm saying? That's the way I look at it. You know, we're all part of it. And if you ever have an out of body experience, if you do, I've had many, and you hear music and you're in that space, you are the music. I can't explain it. There's no words. The music vibrations, you are part of it. You're not separate from it. So it's interesting, you know, like, you know, everybody's got this thing that they like somebody and that they mean something, but the music to me is that's the real content of what's going on. That's the vibrations. It's just, we'll get into a whole other thing talking about this stuff.
We'll do another show on this and get deeper.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Music is the greatest art form there is. You know,
I'm not going to argue with you. I'm just not. I mean, you know, movies are great, you know.
No other art form can I listen or experience so frequently and never get tired of it.
Right. No, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm glad you put Vanilla Sky in there, because I've always loved that song.
When I first heard it, I thought it was something from the White Album or something, or just like something about it was very much like a little Blackbirdish kind of thing. And then when I thought about it, it's really like Biker, like an Icon, a little bit like that. But it's got it's charming little ditty that he did, and I like the words are a little surreal. And it's just his voice there sounded younger to me when I heard it. I didn't think of. I said, "Oh, this sounds like something he recorded a long time ago." It had that kind of early-ish McCartney sound to me. I don't know. Maybe that's just where I heard it, but I like it.
Just seems like a lot of those acoustic songs, like Blackbird, you know, he could write in his sleep.
Yeah.
And this is like another one in the same vein. There's so many of them he's done like that. And you're always using that word surreal, which a lot of people may not associate with Paul, but I hear it in a lot of his songs.
Yeah, no doubt. You know, he's a very warm singer too.
Yeah. The Other Me, there's a song that's been maligned a lot because of the dustbin lid line, but you love it.
I like it. I think the melody, and I like that there's a certain honesty about it, the sound of it. It just hit me right away. I said, that's Paul McCartney, man. That's who he is. You know, he's just, I don't know. I just liked it. I just thought it was kind of an honest little tune. I really didn't think about the dustbin lid. I thought about it, but it's the melody and just the way he sings it. The sound of his voice is right there, you know? And it's like, wow, this guy, he just made this thing up and it's great. And I like it. I knew it instantly. The first time I heard it, I'm like, I know that song. And I liked it. I like the warmness of his voice. I think it's what really carries it for me. Something about it. I don't know. You know, it's not a heavyweight tune. It's not, you know, but how many people know it? Not anybody I know personally knows it.
You know, there's a lot of reasons to love certain songs. And very often in the case of Paul, it's those vocals. The vocal is what makes it. And there is a certain sound that he has on The Other Me, which I feel, yes, it's like his voice is right on the microphone.
Yeah.
Feel it, and it sounds a little bit compressed, but it sounds unique in a way. You don't really hear it that often in his music.
And it's so catchy. I mean, I hate to say it's just so stupid catchy. You know, how could you not? It's like, you know, I know people get boil their blood if they have to hear that again. I hate that. I like it. I like catchiness. You know?
Well, you want to get into the argument that I just had before on was it Talk More Talk? I've always said that if a song, and they always call so much of Paul's songs earworms, but if it's stuck in your head, I believe that means you must like it.
I guess. I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know. I mean, I guess. Although I don't know, maybe there might be some things like, you know, I might have heard in the past that I've heard and I'm like, I can't stand that tune, but I remember it, you know. So I don't know. I think I more or less go with what you're saying. I think that if you hear something and it's in your head, you probably do like it. It registers somewhere in your soul somewhere.
Yeah. Why would it keep going into your brain if you didn't want it to? You know?
Oh, I don't know. That's a metaphysical question. I have no idea. What is that all about? I don't know. I don't know. It's a certain vibrations that register with your heart or something, or in your heart and your brain, I guess, and it just keeps going around and around. What can it be? I mean, I know specifically there are certain songs. There's a certain chord I like. It's a D with a C in the bass. When I hear that, I tear up. I can't help it. And I notice that the people I love a lot, they have used that chord many times There's something going on there. For me, it vibrates in my register, how I register music. So who knows? It's a good question.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be thinking about that all day.
Paul McCartney does that. And of course, he's not the only one that has, but he'll play a chord and the root of the chord, he'll have the root of the chord while he's playing one particular chord, and the next chord will go up in key.
Right.
It'll stay on the same root.
Right. I love that. That's the tension.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Fool on the Hill.
Right.
With that. So maybe that has a similar effect like what you're describing.
No doubt. Absolutely. Sure. Yeah. Well, Paul McCartney's interesting because a lot of his songs could be, you know, very touching, very sad, but he's really, I look at Paul as an optimistic dude. He's the most optimistic person I've ever heard in music. And I love that because that's what he does. And if you don't like that, well, hit the road, man, go somewhere else. I have a problem with being satire. I love satire. Obviously, I like Zappa and Steely Dan. I love that stuff. McCartney's one of the few people who can do the optimistic side of it, and I still enjoy it. I just do. You know, that's rare. You know,
Need that balance, like with Lennon and McCartney. There.
Exactly. That's why it works so well. Of course, absolutely, sure.
But some of his best songs are sad songs.
I know, you know, which I have no problem with because life has sadness in it. You know, he's able to channel that, which is brilliant.
Yeah.
I wouldn't get rid of him.
Okay, a few more songs to get to here. I love this one, Souvenir.
Oh yeah, another great one. It's very almost gospel-y, but it's got that kind of Lennon hard edge guitar in it and stuff like that. That's produced by Jeff Lynne.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that one right away. You know, it's a little bit different than Billy Joel's Souvenir, right? You know, that familiar with that song? That's a very sad little tune there.
I know all of Billy's music, and he's one of my favorite artists.
Yeah, he's great.
One of the artists out there where I like everything he's ever done. So
yeah, he's a polished craftsman, no doubt. And without the Beatles, I don't know what Billy would be. So Billy, the problem with Billy is like first of all, he hasn't come out with a record since like '93, really. I mean, maybe he's come out with, you know, why?
One.
Yeah, the classical one, okay. But no songs after that? I don't understand that. I can't imagine that. A guy like that, maybe he doesn't know what to draw from because there's so much going on nowadays. Because he would draw from Frankie Valli and the Beatles and this and that. And that's what Billy was really good at. You know, he's very different in like say a Donald Fagen, who's like, that's Steely Dan, that's a very specific sound. It's not going to sound like anything else. But Billy, again, like McCartney, would do different styles. But something about McCartney, even though it's a parody, it still sounds, it doesn't really sound like a parody. It sounds like an original. Whereas Billy, you can clearly, he's doing Frankie Valli in the Four Seasons. You can see what he's doing.
Right.
It's great. But it's just, but McCartney, he's just, I don't know, he can do an old song and it just sounds like Paul McCartney. It just still sounds like him. It doesn't, I don't know where to picture it. You know, what is it?
Yeah.
You know, what is the Paul McCartney sound? What is that? I don't know. It's just, it's him singing whatever he wants. It's just spontaneous. He's just making it up.
Billy Joel to me is magical too. But you take a song like Baby Grand.
Right, but you can see who's got with it, you know.
But
so it makes sense.
You can hear even without Ray Charles, you know, that Ray Charles-ish.
Right.
You hear Easy Money. And
right, exactly.
Think of James Brown or someone like that, and he's just so good at doing that. But it still kind of makes it his own. Although Uptown Girl is way too much heavily, frankly.
Right. Right, but it's a great song, but it's clearly Frankie Valli. That's who he's trying to go for that sound.
Yeah.
Whereas, but McCartney's written some songs that he thinks this would be good for Ray Charles, but it still sounds like Paul McCartney to me. It just does, you know. And that's it. Even somebody like Elton John, Elton John's got a certain sound. It's very different. It's just his Elton. That's his sound, you know. It doesn't sound like he's trying to be somebody else, which is not, like I said, music is music. You just listen to it for what it is. You can sit there and tear apart stuff. Who cares?
Right.
Do you like the song? Or do you not like the song? It's simple as that, you know.
That's
so Billy's great. He's one of the greatest, you know, no doubt.
Yeah. Souvenir, it's got that real R&B feel to it to me.
Yep.
Very much you know, sort of like, you know, Call Me Back Again kind of thing.
Yes, exactly. Another good song, yeah. I could have put that one in there. Call Me Back.
Yeah, Tiny Bubble.
Yeah, I don't know. I like Driving Rain is kind of a strange record. Like I've grown to like a lot more tunes on it now as time passes by. This particular tune, I just like the sound of I like the form of the tune. I know it sounds a little like Piggies in certain spots, you know, but I like the concept of everything being in a little bubble, like, you know, each world like a little bubble. And it's just a nice little ditty. I don't know what to say. I just think that it never gets played ever. And it might just draw people into checking some stuff out from that album. Spinning on an Axis is another one I like.
Oh yeah.
You know, that he has a son on that. It's just that, you know, yeah, lyrically it's not a lot going on, but that's not the point. The point is the feeling, the song itself, just singing it. And, you know, like I said, you could tear things apart all day long. Who cares? You know, Shakespeare is great, but if he took a couple of pages out here, it'd be better. Like, who thinks like that? It is what it is, you know. Then you write your own thing, you know. So to me, I like the Tiny Bubbles tune. I thought it was a kind of bouncy little number and makes sense to me. It sounds like a bubble kind of tune.
Uh-huh.
You know?
You know, I often say that there's so many songs that Paul's done recently and the other solo Beatles, where if they were released in the 70s when they were played more to a younger demographic audience, they'd be hits. You know,
No doubt.
Paul
Absolutely.
has such commercial appeal to it. If it was a single in the 70s,
Yeah.
it would have been a top 10 hit probably. And
Well,
yep. So many songs.
Right.
Well, tonight especially.
Well, you could talk about George Harrison's album, you know, Living in the Material World. I mean, you know, might be some things on there that could have been released as a single, right? What's the one song?
Yeah.
Maybe way too long. I thought that should have been a single. Wasn't a single, you know?
Yeah. We're on the same page there.
Yeah, we both have an affinity to that album, I noticed, because I heard you talk about it. I love that album a lot. It's very meaningful to me, you know.
Yeah, I just think the songs on there are very, very meaningful to George and what he's saying lyrically.
Yeah, exactly.
Face it, a lot of songs on All Things Must Pass were as well. But just the light that has lighted the world, I mean, what he's saying in that song,
right?
You can see it, you know.
Yeah, that's an opera tune. That's a song for opera. Who can sing it? You can see it. It is. I
song.
sang a version of it like that, just a version of vocal and just singing it. And I was like, this is an opera. This is a song for opera. Get a woman to sing it, and it would really, really be unbelievable. You know, that's a very, you know, George is a whole other subject. A very talented dude. Imagine that, Lennon, McCartney, and Harrison. These three songwriters, like, what? That's never going to happen. Who's like that, really? You know, that strong. I mean, sure, you've got people like Fleetwood Mac and stuff, groups that are all together, but these guys, like, man, it's like every song is like, you know, but then again, we're fanatics, I guess. We just like it. It just registers with us. You know, what can I tell you?
And, you know, it's a fascinating thing because, you know, Lennon and McCartney from the very beginning, they were ready from 1962, 63 on with their songwriting. And then George gradually got better and better and better. And he really flourished towards the end. You know, imagine, even though I'm not someone that's wished for a Beatles reunion, you know, in a way I can see the advantage of the breakup because you got so much more music from the four of them on their own than you would have had they stayed together. I'd rather have a full George Harrison album than a Beatles with two George Harrison songs, that kind of thing. But, you know, to see George at, you know, the peak of his powers, which he stayed on in his solo career too, you know, if you had that continuing with John and Paul.
Yeah, absolutely.
Naturally gifted, you know, John and Paul, you know, imagine how great those albums could have been with more George Harrison.
No doubt. Absolutely. Yeah.
Been incredible.
Yeah. But the story goes the way it goes. It's like, it's such a story that you sometimes you look back, you're like, who wrote this story? I mean, it just seems like that. It's like a fairy tale. Like, no, you got to be kidding. Yeah, two guys got together and a third guy, and then we got Ringo, and then it didn't. You know, it's like you got to be. You just made that story up. No, it's really happened. These guys really made these tunes. It really happened. And they broke up, and you had Yoko, and you had Linda, and you like, wow, you know, it's a great story that really happened.
I know, and the fascination only grows as far as I'm concerned because there's so much we don't know still, and we're still learning. And no matter how much you learn, there's still going to be plenty that we'll never know.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's continue. I got two more songs left.
Okay.
Dominoes from Egypt Station.
Yeah, I like it. Reminds me of a kind of a George Harrison, isn't it? A pity kind of like mode in there. It's kind of a cool kind of chord. I like the idea of dominoes, things falling over and affecting everything else. It's just a very strong song. I like the way he sings it. I like the production, and it hit me right away. As soon as I heard it, I'm like, yeah, I like this tune.
Yeah. I think it's definitely one of the best on that album.
Mhm.
Are you a big fan of his more recent work?
Of the what?
The more recent work, let's just say New, Egypt Station, McCartney 3.
Yeah, I do like some of the stuff. I think I got more of appreciation of New. I like that album a lot. I don't. I started to really get into that more. Egypt Station, I like some of the tunes. The last thing he came out with, there's a couple of songs on there that I like. I mean, again, I know a lot of Paul McCartney music, so some things are like, well, it's kind of like I think he did that. I liked it better when he did it this way or whatever. So yeah, I do like a lot of his stuff. I mean, he's just a talented guy. You either like it or you don't like it. I'm not sitting there trying to compare it between when he was with the Beatles and stuff. That's
Right.
What's the point? That's the time it was in. He still has a talent. There's no doubt. So yes, I do like a lot of the stuff lately. I think the albums are strong. Good stuff. He doesn't perform a lot of that stuff. I noticed that. Alligator, like you're never gonna hear that. It's a great little tune. I love it. I went hear it. So
Well, we can go on and on what we think he should do in concert.
right.
That could be a 10-hour show.
Right.
Last one. I'm glad you put this in here. The greatest song I think that he at this moment still hasn't released, Return to Pepperland.
Yeah, that's a strange time period. I guess he worked with Phil Ramone on that stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I heard the song and I'm like, I knew it right away. I liked it. I'm like, why wasn't this ever released? And I would remix it personally, my own personal taste, but I liked the tune. I thought it was a good song. And there's a bunch of things from that time period that I don't know what happened to that album of stuff. Lindiana and a couple of things. I don't know.
A lot of that stuff is going to trickle here and there as bonus tracks.
I hope so.
It's like Flaming Pie, for example.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's that period in between Press to Play and Flowers in the Dirt when he was experimenting with different people like Phil Ramone, like David Foster. And,
Like Yvonne, that's another good one. I like that a lot. His version of that's good. I like Eric Stewart's version is good, talented guy. But I like Paul's version. It's just, just got a certain thing to it.
I don't know why that didn't come out on Press to Play. That's such a
Yeah, I don't get it. I don't, it's like maybe how much control does he have over that stuff? Maybe he doesn't, maybe he has to go back. He's got so much stuff. Maybe he doesn't remember it. Maybe. Oh yeah, that. I'll give you a ring. Eventually that came out. He did that. Like his first version of that. I love that first version of just him on the piano. It's so charming. I was going to put that in there, but then I realized people might know that song because it came out later on for the polished,
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
The thing
We need
is,
to talk to him. We need to talk to that guy.
Paul, come on, get on
Come
the
on, what about this tune? What about that? They never mentioned that. They never mentioned anything about the McGear album. Nothing. It's another one, another album. It's mostly McCartney tunes, really.
Yep.
And I talked to Denny Lane about that. All he said was, "Yeah, we had a fun time doing it." That's all he said. There was nothing to say. I'm like, really? These songs are strong tunes, man. It's McCartney. It's a Wings album. I don't get it.
It is. It's almost like the first Splinter album.
Yeah.
It's really, really has a George Harrison feel to it. Of course, he produced it and played on it, and it's got all of George's friends on it. But he didn't write the songs that are on it. But yet they have the George Harrison vibe.
Well, I wrote an article just recently, Beatles 1974, what they were doing. And you can see that they were doing separate things. And Splinter was one of them. It's another album that was a great album. Didn't get much traction. It's unfortunate. It's good stuff. And Harrison's all over it.
Yeah.
Was it ever released as a CD? I guess it's out by now. I don't remember if it ever was.
I'm not sure if it's every single release on Dark Horse. If not, it's most of everything has been released digitally, but not in physical format. So yeah, I like what I've heard from Splinter. I don't know all the Dark Horse music, but it's certainly worth investigating, especially if George was involved,
right,
in a way where it wasn't just a business relationship, but in some way musically. So yeah, it's also interesting to think who he would sign, who in his ears sounds good enough, or whose music is worth his while.
Right, exactly.
So yeah, definitely right there.
Now, did you notice on the John Lennon stuff and George Harrison stuff, we're getting stuff that's being remixed? Yeah. I haven't much heard that from McCartney, right? Most of the stuff I've heard, they remastered it. I have my issues about the remastering but that's besides the point. But they pretty much kept it the same. They didn't remix anything, right? Am I you're right about that?
Tug of War is the only one. And I would love to be able, it's one of a million questions I'd love to ask Paul McCartney. But, we're living at a time right now where it's just about everything's being remixed. I've never had that much of a problem with solo Beatles albums and the way they were originally mixed.
Mhm.
I don't mind remixes as long as they're not considered, as they're labeled, the ultimate mix, because
That's what people start to believe. And I'm like, yeah, you're missing the horn parts and stealing glass now. Come on.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I have issues. I definitely have issues. I like the idea, again, being a mix engineer, I would feel I could mix those tunes. They would sound better, but I would try to keep the same integrity. I wouldn't try to lose all of Phil Spector's work and that kind of stuff. I would do something. I mean, I think McCartney did that when you said he remixed Tug of War. Now, I do remember listening. I thought, well, this is very close to what it was. It just sounds better to me. I think that album. I think that's what it did. I think I thought that. Yeah, I thought it sounded good, but it wasn't too far out. Like they really changed it around. Whereas George's stuff, I mean, like I said, I had issues. I don't want to get into it. I would have done things differently. You're messing around with the Mona Lisa here.
Oh, I understand. There's so many ways of looking at it, John. When you talk about the Beatles catalog, would you touch would you do what Joss Martin has done? Which to me, they aren't drastic differences. It's bringing a little bit more of a contemporary sound, boosting the bass, boosting the drums, which I'm sure Paul and Ringo are happy about.
Right, exactly.
Still, I do have a problem with this music coming out and John and George are not here.
Right.
And I know Yoko is acting on John's best behalf, and Sean and Olivia and Danny, but I also know George could be very fussy.
No doubt, absolutely, sure.
I don't think he would ever have approved of any of these box sets coming out.
Right. Now, what's really interesting is the Beatles song track for Yellow Submarine. I really like the remixes on it. They kept, the guy that did it, I read about him, he kept the mixes to be kind of the same, but he just spread it out, just made it sound better. And I think it's funny to me, the ones that came out the best were the George Harrison ones. They seem like they got more attention this time. Like the drums on It's Only a Northern Song. I think that song kicks, but it still maintains the Beatle mixed quality to it. And that's what I like. I wish there were more things like that. When you start messing around with like Sgt. Pepper, you have to bring all those things in that were there that flash. If you don't do that stuff, you're really missing. But then again, look, you always have the original to go back to. So, I mean, I guess it's okay. You don't have to buy the new stuff. I just would do it differently, but that's me, You can make it sound better.
With the Beatles box sets, have you been pleased or not pleased?
I liked some of the stuff on the White Album box set. I thought some of the remixes were better. There were some things that were like Helter Skelter, with things that just were too low. I'm like, why is that not emphasized? Like, I don't know. Some things I liked, some things I didn't. Again, it's hit or miss. I think Giles is a talented guy. Again, it's tricky, man. I wouldn't want to be in his shoes, messing around with Beatles stuff. Yeah, that's him. That's how I need to have Paul McCartney or somebody else in there at the time. I don't know if he was around when he was remixing it. Probably not. He probably heard it, so it was pretty good. If to him anything is better than probably what he used to. But I mean, Lennon wanted to remix everything. He hated everything, right? He wanted to do it all over again.
What he told George Martin once. Yeah,
it's like, but he changed his mind. That's what you love about Lennon. Right. He changed his mind and he grew. People always talk about, he's cruel to his woman and stuff. Yes. He admitted to that. He grew as a person.
Right.
And that's why I love that guy, because it's not, everybody has their faults and stuff. He was magnified. So everything he did, it's like, Lennon was a bad guy. It's like, no, he wasn't. He was a human being who was going through the motions. And he admitted that. That's why you have to love the guy. He admitted, I was an idiot. I did this and I'm much better now.
Right.
And McCartney's always been a good guy, apparently. So I don't know. He's always seemed like he's been a pretty good guy. I don't know. I just love him.
We just did a tribute show on Talk More Talk to Paul for his 80th birthday and comparing him.
I saw that.
With John. And who do you admire more? Do you admire a guy like John who spoke his mind, said what he felt in the moment? He may have changed his mind the next day or the next week or something, but at least that's exactly how he felt at that time. Or someone like Paul who's more reserved. He's very careful with what he says.
No doubt.
He's always got that air of diplomacy about him,
Right.
you know, and to some people that's more professional. That's the way to handle yourself, you know, but still there may be so many things about the man that you don't know.
And there are, no doubt.
Yeah.
But see, that's the point I was making with Julia, and I will, like I said, Lennon was willing to be himself, and I think most people do change their opinions about stuff. And I think in that respect, I feel close. Like Paul is the ultimate professional. We don't want to know about his life. That's not what he's about, you know, even though we do want to know. But Lennon just laid it out on the ground. This is what he did, you know. I mean, you know, so it's a different thing. It's not that I like one more than the other. I'm saying it's just a different way of approaching life.
Right.
And imagine Lennon nowadays. What would he be like? He'd be all over the place. He'd be all over the place.
That's, you know, the saddest thing for me with John and with George, not only losing the tremendous talent that they were, but not knowing how they would change as the years go on and how they would look back at their careers. And, you know, would John be even more accepting of his Beatles catalog? Hey, here's a question for you. I want to throw this out to my other co-hosts too.
Okay.
But if John and George were still alive, and let's just say they were still active and making new albums and everything, and they toured, do you think that John and George would be doing as much Beatles stuff live as Paul does?
Well, they'd be doing their own songs. Is that what you mean?
Well, yeah, but still
Yeah.
going back to the Beatles catalog.
Absolutely. No doubt.
Think so?
Absolutely. I think they've gotten perspective on it now. They would have had perspective on how great those songs and how much people love it. You know, I don't know. I mean, I would think that they would, yes. You know, Lennon was very strange. Lennon was a Beatle lover, you know he was. He liked the stuff that they did. He was just one of those moody guys. I think he would have gone and he definitely would have done Help and stuff like that. Your Blues. I'm sure he would have done those tunes. Happiness is a Warm Gun. He probably tried to pull it off. Well, maybe not that song, but I don't know. I think he would. And I think George would too. I think he would have, no doubt.
Mm.
You know, and Ringo does. He doesn't care, and Paul doesn't care. I mean, it's DNA stuff, you know.
Look, you know, this is all debatable.
Of course.
You know, I just think that Paul likes to be a crowd pleaser, and he thinks he's giving the public what he wants.
Yeah.
And at the same time, you know, he's the only one between him and Ringo that's going to give you a healthy dose of Beatles concert. You know, and sometimes I question, could that be because John and George aren't here too? You know, he's all that you got.
Right. Exactly.
So, and I know that he's proud of his Beatle past. You know, he's always bringing up the Beatles constantly in his interviews. Even when you don't bring it up to him, he brings it up.
Right.
So, you know, I do question that, but I tend to think that with John and George, the two Beatles that would be more proud of their solo careers and to talk about them would be John and George.
Okay. I see.
Paul has a more detached attitude about the whole thing.
Right.
His whole catalog. He could love what he's done, but he takes a look at sales. He takes a look at what the public likes. He knows you can't go wrong with Beatles stuff. And I'm sure that's part of the reason why he does a lot of what he does is Beatles.
Yeah.
But I'd love to know the real Paul. And if he picked every song that he wanted to do, regardless of what the audience wants, but that's not who Paul is. Paul's always about what the audience wants. But if he could just do whatever the hell he wants, that would be so interesting to me.
Yeah, I think that would be a private conversation, though. I don't know if it's something he'd want people to broadcast. Like if you just happen to meet him and you talk to him, I think he'd open up about it. But to know that he's going to be on a magazine and stuff like that, I think he's very careful what he says. I think he's very diplomatic and stuff, and he's very guarded, no doubt.
Yeah.
I talked to Keith Richards once. I hung out with him for a little while, and he told me that McCartney is very guarded. You know, nobody really knows Paul. You know, he liked him. He's a great guy. He goes, but nobody really knows Paul. He's kind of his own kind of cut off world and that kind of thing, which I thought was very interesting to hear from Keith Richards. You know, who was very open, very funny. The first question I asked Keith Richards, I said, "What do you think about the Beatles?" I don't know why. It's the first thing I asked him. He said, "They're great." He goes, "It wasn't for the Beatles, Stones wouldn't be here." He goes, "They were bastards, though. I'm telling you. You think if we were like the bad guys?" He goes, "They were just as filthy as us, no doubt." That's what he said. You know. So, but yeah, McCartney's guarded.
Yeah. Oh, there's no doubt about it. When there are those moments when he opens up a little bit, you know,
Yeah.
really, it's like, wow, he said that, huh?
Yeah, right.
You need
But he
more
doesn't,
things like
he
that.
doesn't hide his feelings. Like, I mean, when Linda passed away, I was very sad.
Oh,
And he was very sad too, and he showed it. He did show it. And so, I mean, he's just another guy, he's just got his feelings, and everybody scrutinizes. He's got the whole planet. Everything he says something, everybody sees it. Millions and millions of people. You got to be cautious about what you say. Nowadays, you really do,
I know, it's for all four Beatles.
Think about the pressure that is.
Mm-hmm.
The pressure of coming out with another record after you split with the Beatles. Think about the pressure of that. Scary. I'm going to be a total failure without these guys, and maybe I'm really not a good writer and stuff. I mean, McCartney just kept going because he's totally musical. He can't help himself.
Right.
He grew. He just kept saying, "Oh, we're going to get better." And he'd been on a run. Success. Even though I liked the stuff before that, but and Lennon is the insecure dude, the one that you figure would be strong. He's very insecure.
Oh, I think Paul is insecure.
Oh, no doubt. I'm just saying that Paul kept going at it. Whereas Lennon, he needed, it was good that he took a break. I think he hit, after Walls and Bridges, hit a wall kind of, and he just took a break, which was good for him. Then he emerged out of his cocoon, So, yeah, Paul is very insecure. I know somebody who worked with him, and they said in the studio, a lot of times he's really not really sure what he wants to do, and he's kind of insecure about stuff. I'm like, yeah, he's just thinking. That guy knows what he wants to do. It's just that he's done so much stuff. It's hard to say, I want to do something new, but I still want to maintain Paul McCartney music,
Right.
So I don't know. I would love to meet him, but I don't know if that's ever going to happen.
Yeah.
I met him with his voice. That's all I know. I know McCartney the way I know him and the way you know him. So it's good.
Yeah, it's interesting. We have these conversations on my podcasts about, all these different producers that have worked with Paul, and some fans prefer that Paul would just produce himself. But I always feel like no matter who's producing with him, Paul always has the final say anyway.
I'm sure. No doubt.
A McCartney song and a McCartney recording.
Right.
With the influence of the producer too, but still, he's watching over everything, and he still, like I said, has the final say.
Right.
So it still has that element of it feeling like a McCartney song anyway, no matter who you're working with.
But who's the guy he produced Chaos and Creation? Apparently he was he told him look, I don't think that's a good idea. Go rework it. Imagine saying it to Paul McCartney, it's okay, but you should kind of work on that a little bit. That's got balls, man, to do that. I don't know.
I know. There are a lot of people that love that album, especially because it's much simpler production. Yeah. It goes back to the McCartney album or, early 70s McCartney. Right.
But it's got a nice little edge to it, subtle edge to it that I think I mentioned one of those tunes in there, Riding at Vanity Fair, I think.
Uh-huh.
It's a beautiful little tune, but it's hard, man. That's a tough little tune there. Who is he singing about? Heather? And he says no, but
what everyone thinks. But then he won't admit it.
He won't admit it. That's Paul. He's very diplomatic. He's not gonna really badmouth Michael Jackson or anything. He's gonna say, yeah, kind of bluffed me on that, and we kind of drifted apart. I love him for that.
He did badmouth Michael one time in a way.
Did he?
It might have been the Playboy interview that he gave at the time, and he was talking about the Thriller album, and Paul said words to the effect of, well, it's all Quincy Jones anyway.
Okay, well, I guess I could look at that as a bad mouth thing, I guess. Sure, Quincy is an all other kind of fish, He says some stuff about the Beatles. I'm like, I think you should rethink what you're saying. He's great. He's a brilliant guy, no doubt. But, Paul McCartney's a lousy bass, you got to rephrase that. Yeah, he's not Stanley Clarke. It's technical provision, but he's a great bass player, and he influenced everybody. So come on.
I think you say things when you get to be really up there in age where.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
You don't mean it, but.
Right, hey, whatever. That's what makes it interesting. You get something to talk about.
Right.
I love that.
All right, John, this has been tremendous. I loved sharing your thoughts about all these different songs. And as I said before, I'm going to put the link to your article. I'm also going to put the link to your website.
Thank you.
And a few other links that you sent me, I think, for your catalog of songs.
Yeah, well, all of it's on Bandcamp. That's the place I send people. You want to know anything about me, just go to Bandcamp. I got 40, 50 albums of stuff there. A lot of music.
Okay. By the way, did you just see Paul in concert?
No, I didn't have a chance because I'm moving. I'm doing
okay.
Yeah. I seen bits of it on YouTube and stuff like that. doesn't sound that bad. People are saying, he sounds not. I thought it sounded pretty good. You know, been singing for a long, long time. Hours and hours every day. Give me a break. Plus the fact that he smokes and stuff can't be a good thing, but you know.
I thought he gave up smoking a long time ago. And
I just saw a picture of him smoking. He smokes a little. Come on, you know, it's life. You know, at 80 years old, I can't imagine what he's thinking. Can you imagine what I don't think he can even wrap himself around how much he means to people around the world. He can't. You couldn't. You'd go nuts. The fact that he can maintain some sort of normalcy when you see him talk and stuff, that's amazing.
Right. People
blow their minds out because they couldn't deal with the fame and you know, he's just one of a kind. And I'm glad that he's still around. I'm very fortunate. So we're all fortunate that he's around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, John, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks to everyone for watching. And if you can, please subscribe. Tell as many people as you know that are Beatle fans about my channel. And hope to have you back again, John.
Thanks. I appreciate that.
Okay.
I love talking about this stuff.
All right. We'll see you next time.
Okay.